Oh, Terry,
Hey.
welcome back.
Yeah. Yes. And
How you
it's good
doing?
to be back.
Yeah, you good?
I'm nothing short of fantastic. In fact, you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. If they had a tail, I'd wag it.
Brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
That's your favorite saying, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
always reminds me of that. Was it, what was that comedy film where the guy, it was Hitch, where his friend actually had a tail at the end of it. Do you remember that? Do you not remember that scene?
I remember Hitch, but I don't remember that
Yeah,
thing now.
yeah. Watch it again in the last 10 minutes. He actually has a tail and he wags it.
Oh,
So it's,
right, okay. Yeah. The one I was thinking of was I think it was Spaceballs.
oh yeah, brilliant.
And I think John Candy
Mm,
played the role of what was a Wookiee,
yeah.
and he's got round ears like that's his face, you know.
Yeah.
And you see there's a shot of his back, and he's talked to
Mm,
someone,
mm.
and I think it's I don't know what but he's obviously happy with the conversation because he's
Mm.
got a tail and it's wagging.
That's a great film, that is. I haven't seen that for years. God.
Small things amuse small minds, eh?
I know. Brilliant though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we're
High
back on
performance.
high perfor high performance for small-minded people.
Yeah, high performance comedy.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so we've had this series where I'm talking to very interesting people about high performance, including yourself.
yeah. You couldn't get
And
hold of anyone, so you thought you'd give me a call.
I went through the list, and you were on there somewhere.
Yeah,
Everyone else was busy, and here
yeah.
we
You
are
couldn't
again.
say enough, so where you are.
But no, seriously though, it's a topic that we love, isn't it? And
Well,
today it's
it's
about
so interesting, isn't it?
it is, yeah, because
It-
it's such a small amount of people who are high performers, but also then in certain situations they might be catastrophically bad. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's contextual high performance.
Isn't it? Right.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
there are threads that we pull that are generalized applications to high performance that are good talking points, aren't they? That are undeniable sort of truths, if you like.
Mindsets,
Yeah. Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
will.
Yeah, and we talk about high performance, but actually the most important element, I think, is kind of it's a belief system, isn't it?
Well, that's what we told us a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? A couple of days ago. Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, and I think the first step is to find out what is the criteria for high performance in
Yeah.
in that particular context.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's
Sorry,
a good
I've
point.
just brushed my teeth and I can't do a thing with them. So don't worry about
Yeah.
it. So if you find a criteria for that, what constitutes high performance in that particular context, because high performance in, say, for instance, coaching or
Mm,
leadership will
mm.
be, the criteria will be different for high performance in, cross country running, badminton,
Yeah.
chess,
Yeah.
martial arts.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's true.
so how do you know when you how do you know when you're at that level?
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. So, so a belief system, do you mean, or is that
Yeah, well,
how
for
does that?
instance, sorry, go on.
No, no, go on. You go for it.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I could be, going at my right in the flow, going do my best, right?
Yeah.
But to me, or let me switch it around. I could be doing my best and thinking I'm a high performer,
Yeah.
right? But people around me, my leader or manager or whatever it may be, might thinking, well, it's actually not, you know,
Oh, right.
you know what I
Okay.
mean? And this is the criteria, you know.
So,
It, it, the old example that I often give is, when I'm teaching the meta model, for instance, specifier questions,
mhm.
when people say, we must improve our performance.
Mm.
Well, who's we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Performance compared to what?
Yeah.
Compared to who? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. No,
You've got to
absolutely.
know where you're going, what
Yeah.
constitutes a high
Yeah.
performance. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And also improve is quite a generalistic term as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Improve.
improve
So,
how?
yeah. And where and yeah,
Yeah,
what?
exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. Every sentence has
Yeah.
its own level of specificity and ambiguity, if that makes sense.
Right.
As it, so when I say, when I say to you, let's say I'm working for you, or you're working for me, or you know, I'm working for you, and you say to me, Terry, you must improve your performance. Well, I go
Yeah.
inside my head and
Yeah.
I make sense of it. Does that make sense?
Based on your beliefs and your maps.
Absolutely, yeah, and what
Yeah.
I think is right.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to really, I've got real life examples of this in my own personal history, you know, and I've seen it so many times. Yeah, I might go, okay, so I might, I don't know, instead of producing 6 widgets an hour, I'll start producing 8 widgets an hour.
Yeah.
But you might want 10 or 20.
Or
Whatever
it's
it
not
is.
the volume of widgets, it's the quality of the widget you're producing.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's asking specifier questions to get exactly what's needed.
Around the belief that 2 or more people share to create
Yeah.
a unified version of that belief that's neither right nor wrong, but will allow you to perform at a high level on what's required at that time.
But and it's not necessarily a belief. It's a set of criteria. In this
Right.
context, what constitutes high performance?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I know the original conversation we had was around beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, and I suppose that sort of prompts the question, or you know, the next question would be for me is, okay, typically, in its chosen context, what do high performers believe that makes them perform the way they do? Interesting point here, as far as I'm interesting to me,
Mm.
you know, and it's so true. I think Jordan Peterson sort of believes a couple of podcasts ago, or whatever it was. Right?
Yeah.
I won't do his voice because I can't. But he was talking. The guy he was talking to was talking about beliefs and whatever, and he said, "You ask people what they believe. How should they know?" That was more sort of, I don't know what that was. That was sort of
Dame Ed and Average.
Dame Ed and Average, yeah. How should they know? No, that was a copy. That I'll leave the impressions to someone else. I'm not a high performing impressionist.
Nice.
Yeah. He said, how the hell should they know? They don't know, right? I thought about that, and I thought, see, that's right. If I say to you, what are your beliefs around high performance? You might be able to you might be able to consciously pick out a few that you believe, if that makes sense. That makes you a high performer. But there's going back to, you know, the stuff we've spoken about many times before. we don't there'll be stuff that you do that you're not even consciously aware of. So, you know, and your actions will demonstrate your beliefs. Is that making sense?
Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to high performance, there's patterns that you might not be able to articulate even to yourself almost.
Because it's so ingrained. You don't even think about it. You just do it.
So if you think about, I don't know, if you think about chess players, the greatest chess players, if you were to sat down with them and say, you know, Kasparov, how is it that you're the best person on the planet at chess? What do you do? It would be a fascinating conversation, but I'm not sure you get the full picture, would you really? Because I don't think he would have the full picture.
That's right. He'll tell you what he thinks he does.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think you've heard me use this example before when I was doing a master prac, running a master prac some years ago, and there was a guitarist on the master prac, and there's a lady who's on the same course who wants to learn the guitar.
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay, join up, you know, get together, you know, do a modeling project on, you know, she wants to learn the guitar." He was a fairly, you know, proficient player.
Yeah.
And I asked him to don't say anything, don't talk to each other, just, you know, just do what you know, just you follow him, do what he does, right? But he had to say something, right? And he was given the instruction he gave her was put your wrist in a certain way and put your fingers in a certain spot, right, to hit this chord.
Yeah.
And she said when we were debriefing, he said do this, but what he actually did was different. So I just put my fingers on the fretboard you know, maybe that's what it's called, I think, I'm not sure. You know, on the where he put them, not where he told me to put them, and I was able to hit the chord.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah,
Does
yeah,
that make sense?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure. Yeah,
There's
I've
lots
had
of
that
examples.
actually.
There's lots of examples like that.
Yeah, I've had that where I was learning to play tennis, and the tennis coach, who was a really good friend of mine actually,
Hmm.
even at school, he was like 16, 17, 18. He was really good, and he was a pro. He's sort of like 60 in UK or something like that. And he was telling me to hold the racket in a certain way and serve in a certain way. But then when I was watching him, what he was telling me to do was not exactly the same. I was like,
Yeah,
hang on a
absolutely.
second, hang on a second, Phil. That's not quite what you were saying. Or my interpretation of what you're saying isn't quite what I'm seeing, whether it's one or the other, but it's just not matching up. And when you examine it, it was actually his explanation was different to my interpretation of what he was saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
And when you think about it, it has to be that way because we've only got words
Yeah.
to relate what's actually going on inside our head.
Hmm.
And words are very poor. They're actually quite a poor substitute.
Yeah.
Actually, there's,
Yeah.
the old deletion, distortion, generalization process.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're going to make deletions. You're going to leave stuff out that you think is not important, but to you, because you do it all the things, you don't even think about it. But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
might well be important to the model there, the person who's watching you. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It does. It's really interesting, actually.
All that to say
Yeah.
is, if you really want to know what someone believes, if you want to know what a high performer believes, yeah, you can ask him, and
Hmm.
he'll give you a verbal report. But watch what he does. You know what you know. Does he have a routine in the morning? You know what? You know, you could ask him even
Hmm.
what in order for you to perform at the level you perform on a regular basis, or you know, consistently. What might you do you believe about yourself? What do you believe
Yeah.
about what do you believe about work? You know, whatever context, you know, however high up the scale you want to go, the world,
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, yeah, you know.
There's a really good book that I read. It's called Living with a Navy SEAL. Have you heard about it?
Um, it's not Goggins, is it? David Goggins, is it?
Well, it's written by a guy called American guy called Jesse Meisner, maybe something like that.
Hmm.
And he was doing an ultra run, and he spotted a guy in a camp chair with a beer and a single like cream cracker or something.
Hmm.
And he was just about to run like 100 miles, and he was like, "Wow!" And this guy's really hench, but really, kind of relaxed, and he was fascinated by this character. And this guy just got up and did the 100 miles really,
Yeah.
really easily, and he was fascinated by it. So he said, "Who are you?" And the whole book is about that question, which was, "Who are you then?" And he introduced himself, and he says, "I'm David Goggins." And he goes,
Ah.
"What do you
Yeah.
do?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm a Navy SEAL, and I do ultra." And he's like, "Wow!" And he goes, and he started speaking to him, and he became so engaged, and Goggins was so engaging. He goes, "Look, I want to learn how you think. So do you fancy living with me for a while?" And so hence the book, Living with a Navy SEAL. And
Yeah.
so he said, "I want to do what you do, to take me through your processes, your mapped experience of how you become a high performer, so you can run
Uh-huh.
100 miles easily, or you can complete the Navy SEAL training 3 times. He's the only person in history to complete it. So
I
if you
read
know
his
about
first one.
David,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you know about David Goggins. He's an author and motivational speaker and elite athlete. He's an ultra runner,
Hmm.
right? And so one example is he said, "Well, I'll tell you the gym." And he goes, "Did you know that Navy SEALs know that you only probably use about 30% of your brain's capacity? And actually, when you feel like you've finished enough press ups or pull ups or miles, you've
Hmm.
actually got about 70% left in the tank." And he's like, "No." And he goes, "Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
prove it to you." He goes, "What?" So he's in the gym,
Hmm.
and David Goggins goes, "Right, how many pull ups can you do?" And he goes, "I could probably do 10." He goes, "Right, I want you to do 100." And he goes, "I can't do 100." He goes, "You will." And, in his head, he was going, "No, no, 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 I can't do that."
Yeah.
He couldn't believe it in his head. It's
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
limit.
Yeah.
So David Goggins goes, "Well, do your 10." So he does his 10, and he goes, "Right, right, let's walk around the gym." So he walks around the gym, comes back, and he goes, "Right, do another 10." And he goes, "Oh, I can't do another 10." He goes, "You can." So he did 9. And he goes, "You did 9 then, didn't you?" And he went, "Yeah, I did." And he goes, "Well, let's walk around the gym again, because we're not leaving until you do 100." And he kept on walking around the gym, and he'd go, "I'll do another 2. But he walked around about 30 times, and even, I'll do one more. But in the end, he did 100,
He did the
and he
hundreds,
goes,
yeah.
he goes, so there you go. That's high performance mindset. That's how you have to fight back against your brain's natural processes. And you've just done 100, right? But you thought you could do 10. So he shifted this whole belief, assumption, this map, whatever you want to call it, that he couldn't to he could, and he did.
And
And the
it's
whole
also
book
your
is about that.
perception, isn't it? If
Yeah, yeah.
if you said to me, like, do 100 pull-ups,
Mhm.
no chance.
No, that's right.
But I'm thinking of, oh, 1, 2, up to
Yeah.
100.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
But yeah, in fact, you were a great example. You're a living example of this. You're going back to COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember I was talking to you on the phone, on the phone, sort of thing. And you said I'm sure you said you did 200 push-ups a day or something
Yeah, yeah.
during
That's
COVID.
right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I went, flipping hell, I said, fiddlesticks,
Yeah.
but after I got off the phone, right, I did 22.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I did 10 sets of 22.
Yeah, yeah. That's right.
Now, and I did 10 sets of 22 every day. Must have been for about a good 2 months.
Yeah, yeah. That's right.
Until the gym's opened again.
Mhm.
But if you said do 20, 200 pull-ups, press-ups, no chance. But I can break it down and do 20,
And
over
this is
half
where,
an hour, say 20 minutes.
yeah, I mean, I was coaching someone, honestly, I was coaching someone this morning, lovely, lovely guy. But one of his challenges is he gives up too easily because he's fearful of failure. But why he gives up too easily, it's not the giving up, it's what he tries to do is he does too much all at once.
The example you've just given of David Goggins and the
Yeah.
example I've just given of you is you can map that across to leadership, whatever you want, productivity.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look at what you've got to do in the day and you go, and a lot of people get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do that. I can't make 100 calls or 50 calls in a day or whatever it might be. But if we break it down and we go, okay, what's the one step? What can, like, what's the first call? What's the next call?
Yeah.
Concentrate on the road, rather than the end destination, if you like, the process.
That's right.
I use that process quite often when I'm coaching. Just break it down into tiny pieces that it's just the other side of uncomfortable.
That's right. Yeah.
But not as uncomfortable. Can't do this.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, there's two types of discomfort. There's two types of stress, isn't there? There's distress where it's not good, and then there's that helpful stress that we all need. And it's funny how people go, "Oh, I've got a job interview. I'm really stressed. And they're saying I'm distressed." But then you could go, "Wow, that's brilliant, isn't it?" So how are you going to practice the interview before you get it so you can nail it? Oh, well, I think for me, resourceful beliefs are beliefs that you add questions to and take actions on.
Yeah, it's asking yourself better questions in a way.
Yeah.
Rather than I can't do 200 press-ups and I can't do 200 press-ups.
Yeah.
Okay, how can I do 200 press-ups?
That's right.
How can I break it down so I do 200 press-ups?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, it's a good example. There's a lot of assumptions in that comment as well. 200 press-ups now. Right. Then I thought, well, is he talking about 200 press-ups in one go?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I can do 200. I'm sure I can do 10 sets of 20.
Yeah.
And I just had to do 10 sets of 22.
Yeah.
Because you had to do 220 because you did 200.
But also you can do press-ups on your knees if you wanted to start off with. I mean, who's
exactly, yeah.
At least you're giving it a go to start off with, and then you improve, don't you?
Interestingly enough, just as a footnote, I find it hard to do press-ups flat-handed, right? Ordinary press-ups.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did them on my knuckles and I did them elevated. And believe it or not, it was actually easy. It felt easier.
How do you mean elevated?
Your feet off the floor.
Oh, your feet off the floor. Got you. So I thought you meant the other way, as in. Okay.
No, you do them all day.
Yeah, yeah.
He says flipping.
But even so, if you've never done a press up before,
That's
you
right.
can still do elevated either way, couldn't you? I suppose.
Yeah.
So, so,
Yeah, this
so, so here's the interesting thing, right? So if you want to be a high performer and you've got limiting beliefs, let's think about what advice would you give someone who wants to sort of reshape their beliefs so it becomes more helpful? What would you say to them?
well, it's interesting you say this. Even before you decided to, or we decided to talk about beliefs,
Hmm.
I'm actually looking at. I'm putting a course together called Finding the White Crow. Right
Right. Yeah.
now, it's based on you heard of William James, father. You can't say William James without saying father of modern psychology at the end of it. He's
Right.
very
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
famous.
Sorry. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right? I don't know the exact saying, but in essence, what he's saying is, um, all crows are black. Right? To
Yeah.
disprove that all crows are black, think about all crows are black. The generalization. Think about a generalization.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to prove that every crow is white. You only need to prove that one crow is white in order to disprove the generalization.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Yes.
let's use the example of failure. I'm a failure. Right? So there are a number of steps too. Well, you want the quick potted version.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is, okay, well, I'll find out the context. So, you made me say before, when a belief, you could look at a belief as a generalization you've made
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a result of one.
I'm not very good at job interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's maybe based on one or two or three examples.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you look at that generalization, which is that, all crows are black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you look for the white crows, if that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are the counter examples to this?
Yeah.
Is it in any context? Because again, your nervous system, as far as your nervous system and your brain concerned, I'm a failure means in every context, in every situation, every context, past, I've been a failure in the past in every context, I'm a failure now, and I'm a failure in the future in every context.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that, but there's no, there's no time limit, if that makes sense. There's no sort of distinction. So and it's impossible to say that.
Yeah.
You can't read the future.
No, that's right.
Future, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you go to the past and look for counter examples where you pass something, even if it's a litmus
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I've done it many times where I've asked someone to say, okay, what do you want to do? I want you to go away and list every single achievement you've ever made.
Yeah.
From the smallest success to the biggest, right? Every memory, like for instance, when I did it for myself years ago, I put 25-yard breaststroke.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Got a certificate for it, right? I won the egg and spoon race in the entrance.
Yeah.
And got a packet of Fireball XL5 sweet cigarettes.
Nice.
Right? So yeah, exactly. Yeah. But these things is so you start creating look up the counter examples in the past, right? And creating experiences for the future where you start. It's first of all, you start disproving the generalization.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like loosening the tooth, like the bad belief, Then you start in tandem with that, start looking and creating experiences that disprove the belief.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very quick example. Going back to the days when we were in insurance, remember we had to do the induction. We had to go to Bristol.
Yeah.
And do those.
Yeah.
Well, I failed the first
one.
Right. But because I got on well with everyone, I had a second go. And the first thing that came to mind was, I'm not good at exams. And I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know this, but I know now. Then,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, well, I want to stay here. I don't want to. So, yeah. We all make mistakes, so
yeah.
So I swatted. I researched and practice.
I remember,
yeah, and I got 98%.
Yeah,
right. So I created an experience that disproved
Yeah.
If I
So,
did,
so actually, you've got two examples there. So there's two parts to that. You're saying you go back in the past
yeah,
and you find a white crow,
yeah,
let's say, yeah.
yeah,
Or could you not therefore create one in the future by going, hang on a second, I know I'm
yeah,
not very good
that's
at
it.
exams, but what I have to do, but it's actually it's even more sophisticated than that. Sometimes this is the second thing for me. This is the second part. That's great advice, but for me as well, it's maybe let's say I'm not very good at exams. You break down someone who's good at exams, and you
Mhm.
say to yourself, well, what are the three or four things that they might do? And that might be they practice attentively for a consideration of a period of time without getting distracted.
That
Create the
that
white crow.
that's the strategy
Yeah.
that creates the white crowd.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that's right.
And funny enough, that's what I did. Okay, so okay, so
Yeah.
what if I'm going to sit down and then how do I do it?
Yeah.
Because as you know, when we were in even when we weren't there that long before we
Yeah.
started getting indoctrinated in this,
Yeah.
positive thinking and whatever, you
Sure.
know. So yeah, you still do it now, I suppose. Okay,
Hmm.
model fast learners.
Hmm.
What do they believe? You know, what works for them?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So an example of that would be, so if I'm not very good at, I'm not very good at interviews, I'm really nervous about my new interview. You can go back and you can go, well, hang on a second. Have you ever been employed before? Yeah, oh, yeah, I've had two or three jobs. Yeah. Did you have an interview for them? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you got the job. Uh, yeah, 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 I suppose I did. Yeah. But the last three interviews I've not got. No, 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 I know. But go back to the first interview,
mm,
right? And replay that and reflect on it. And right. So that's the white crow there.
yeah,
But then you can almost go, well, okay, break that down then. What are the things you did there to be successful? And you go, well, I did this and I did that.
yeah.
So what can you take from that experience now and replay into the present moment so that in the future you've got a better chance of succeeding? But also, you might be some of the things that you haven't considered that you might want to improve on from that time. I guess other strategies that you might want because life's moved on, hasn't it, a little bit?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Um, uh, so yeah, you can look at that interview and
Mm.
again create your white crowd.
Hmm.
Um, and there could be other contexts where that was where I was going to go with this. If I've got an interview,
Yeah.
right, it can strike, anxiety, but if we change the language,
Yeah.
I've got a conversation about a job.
Yeah.
I've got a conversation with such and such a company about a job. What interview and conversation will have two different feelings in the body.
Yeah.
Now it might sound that's don't know. I don't
Mm.
know whether that'll work, but
Mm.
I've worked with this before.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh, I hate conflict.
Yeah.
Where people, you're working with people,
Mm.
I just
Yeah.
don't like conflict. I just avoid conflict. Well, is it a conflict or
Hmm.
And when we agreed that rather than have a conflict, let's why not have a conversation?
Mm.
You
That's
know,
a meaningful
a
conversation
meeting
rather than
conversation, right? That person's anxiety level changed, went
drops. Yeah.
down. Yeah,
Mm.
because I'm going to have a conversation now.
Hmm.
It's not conflict at all.
Correct. That's
Hmm.
brilliant. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Right, Terry. So two tips there for people I think are really quite helpful. A little bit of insight. Thank you
Find
so
your white
much.
crow.
I love that. That's a really nice little metaphor.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
interesting.
that's the name of my new course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
your white crow.
That's great. Yeah. You need to tell us more about that on the, we'll do another conversation. You tell us more about it, actually.
Okay, we'll do. Yeah, yeah,
That'd be a
yeah,
nice
yeah.
flow on from this, wouldn't it?
Lovely. Yeah,
Brilliant. Terry, thank you so much.
my
And we will
pleasure.
speak again very soon, my friend.
Okay, ta-ta.
Bye.